Welcome to Group 1's project on matrix organizational structure. Group 1 consists of Justin, Heidi, Kendra, Andrew, Rachel, Nalima, and myself, Jesse. Today we're going to introduce what a matrix organization is, and to do that we actually need to rewind and review what a traditional structure looks like and compare it to the matrix structure that evolved out of necessity. So, as you can see here, represented by the black dot, traditional organizations' goals and decisions are usually given out from the CEO down to the line managers and eventually down to the employees. And you can see it's very top to bottom, all decisions coming from the top and being disseminated down to the employees. So, as you can see, that particular structure worked very well over the last 100 years or so, and allowed large corporations to handle their decision making, and was pretty stable and was pretty successful in general up until the latter half of the 20th century, and where the business and the markets were changing faster and faster, and there needed to be a better way to quickly execute business decisions throughout the company. So, an analogy would be, we're used to this large cargo ship, as in the traditional structure, trying to make a 90-degree turn within a city block, as compared to a jet ski, which can make it within a couple feet. So that's essentially where the matrix structure evolved, was more of like a jet ski. It could manipulate and it can definitely execute a maneuver much quicker than, let's say, a large cargo ship. So, as you can see here, this shows that in a matrix structure, we have the traditional vertical, whether it's functional, reporting structure down, and introducing horizontal linkage with product or project service managers. And this allows the product or project service managers to reach across each siloed function to be able to deploy the resources or access the resources necessary to deliver the product. So, very different and quite a big departure from the traditional structure, as this creates a dual reporting structure. This helps companies with low to moderate resources reach out and deploy to each siloed function to get the necessary information and create and deliver the product in a much quicker manner. So, this reminds me of the Matrix, where Neo has the option to choose the traditional blue pill, or on the other hand, he could choose the red pill, which allows change, much faster change in executing decisions with the Matrix. So,
So to further expand on the development of the matrix structure in theory, in a 1990 issue of the Harvard Business Review, they depicted the idea as not a structure but more of a frame of mind. So in the 70s and 80s, the problem was that companies were seeing was that their organizational structures were incapable of carrying out the new, complex, and sophisticated business strategies that they had developed. And in the 80s, companies were evolving and redesigning their strategies that matched the growing markets that they were in. So with these major changes occurring, businesses were faced with two major strategic and structural problems. And the businesses were proposing more simple answers for complex problems, but they quickly realized that in order for them to succeed, they were going to need to manage that complexity rather than try to simplify it. So thus entered the matrix structure, which was designed to better help co-manage the complexities that businesses were facing strategically by providing them with multiple channels of reporting and management. However, that was easier said than done. The formal structure was there, but the relationships and the people involved became the challenge as far as managing the organization effectively. And one of the important factors in managing the matrix was the idea of having a shared vision for the organization. And the article mentioned 3 key factors for the vision and its clarity as an organization, which were simplicity, relevance, and reinforcement. So by having a simple shared vision, people within the matrix can envision and distinctly identify what the purpose of the organization is, and further, the relevance and reinforcement allowed for the continuous focus of the vision and to keep it from becoming obsolete. So these were the sort of things that helped the frame of mind of the matrix theory and structure. A quote from the article stated that the challenge is not so much to build a matrix structure as it is to create a matrix in the minds of our managers. So this brings to light the emphasis on the people and the relationships in developing the structure rather than the formality of the structure itself.
Making the matrix work. Now that we've discussed the matrix structure and how it was being implemented by companies in the 1980s, let's fast forward 20 years, re-enter the matrix, and see what some businesses think about developing matrix structures now. In an article written in 2016 in the Harvard Business Review, they just stated that most discussions about matrix structures become debates between two sides. A group that loves it or hates it. The group that finds a matrix structure necessary is the side that expresses feelings that as businesses grow larger, they naturally become more complex and will eventually need a matrix structure to provide the lateral coordination within the business. This side describes the need for that structure as an inevitability. The side that hates matrix structures complain that they can cause decision-making to be slowed down, and that when something happens, it can be difficult to identify the accountability of where things broke down. Lateral coordination is just another term for horizontal communication. It's something that was very easy to identify at the top of an organization, and it can be difficult to achieve at the lower levels. And top executives can't manage with all the daily decision-making escalating to that top level. The article used terms soft wiring and hard wiring to describe ways to achieve horizontal linkage. Their examples of soft wiring included task force, ad hoc committees, planning cycles, advisory boards, and hard wiring would be an example of using a matrix structure. They outlined 5 guidelines to follow if your company made the decision to implement a matrix structure. The first guideline stated that a matrix shouldn't be a default design to begin with. It should be implemented when there's a clear purpose and 2 conditions listed are met. One is that there's a serious need for middle management on different units or teams to coordinate for business purposes daily. 2, ensuring that the linkage that is needed couldn't be achieved through any of their examples of soft wiring, such as a monthly or quarterly meeting or the coordination of a task force. The goal of the second guideline was to remove intrinsic conflict from the matrix. If you choose organizing principles for your matrix that have similar responsibilities or are expected to manage the same factors, then you're building conflict into the matrix to start with. If both principles have a focus of reducing cost, then they're naturally going to be competing with each other. So the goal was to identify organizing principles that create reasons for the groups within your organization to collaborate together versus competing. There are many ways to create a matrix structure and many confusing examples of those organizational charts found online. To be effective, it's best to stick with 2 organizing principles rather than creating a more complicated structure, with the exception being if the business itself is very complex and there's higher needs for more than 2 principles. It's also better to avoid nesting matrices. Since the matrix structure affects the organizational chart in the hierarchy, if you start inserting multiple matrix structures into an organization, it can cause all kinds of confusion when it comes to identifying who needs to report to who. The first 3 guidelines in the article state that you should use the structure only when it's needed. This one moves to if you've decided it's needed and you're implementing it, it's important to go all in and make the matrix effective by making it credible. Make sure that the reporting lines are actually balanced and not unequal ratios, where one manager answers for 70% of what you were doing versus the other managing 30. It's also important to make sure that the objective setting of the matrix managers is valued, and not that of the two bosses an employee answers to, one takes care of things and the other is more of a figurehead role. We noted complaints earlier of those who said matrix structures lead to slow decision making. This shouldn't be the case. In fact, if it's properly implemented, a matrix structure could increase the speed and quality of the decision making at lower management levels. In order to achieve it's important that top management only escalate issues when it's truly necessary. This requires them to refuse to escalate decisions that should have been made at lower levels and empower the managers at those levels to make those decisions. The overall feel of the article was that a matrix structure can be a very useful tool if implemented when appropriate.
When is it appropriate for an organization to develop a matrix? It depends a great deal on the organization plus all the other little factors. The four primary reasons for adopting the matrix structure are when an organization wants to focus on multiple goals, wants to better manage its information or ways of communication, wants to establish economies of scale, or wants to speed its organizational response to environmental demands. Other factors include what type of matrix the organization wants. There are three forms of matrix structures. Functional matrix, which leans more towards the functional structure of an organization. Project or process matrix, which leans towards the horizontal structure. And a balanced matrix, which is a mix of both the functional and the project. But wait, there's more. These factors are the most crucial in deciding if the organization should even consider a matrix structure. What is the organization's business model? Does the model require the complexity of a matrix structure? If so, which type? What is the culture of the organization? Can the culture support the changes of a matrix structure? If the culture of the organization is resistant to change, then the matrix structure is doomed. According to Matrix Organizations Designed for Collaboration and Agility, organizations that have a history of openness and change are more suited for matrix structures. This is also true of the workforce in said organization. If the workforce does not have the ability to be flexible, then the matrix will have trouble working. And what will the change cost the organization? Is the change worth it? And lastly, organizations must figure out the scope of the change. Will certain areas benefit more than others? This leads to whether or not organizations want a full matrix or a partial matrix. Partial matrix structures come in many forms. An organization needs to decide what percentage of the organization as a whole will or should restructure and how to integrate this partial matrix into the organization's culture. These partial matrix are usually found in a more traditional hierarchical structure. Partial matrix also work best when the employees who are part of these matrices will actually benefit from the increased cooperation and collaboration. Another partial matrix is the ad hoc matrix, which is a temporary matrix structure. This type of temporary matrix is found in organizations where a permanent matrix structure will not or cannot be supported. As defined in the article Best Practices in Matrix Organizational Structures, matrix structures are best adopted by complex, diverse organizations that have several projects, or goals that are unified under a clear organizational objective and require multiple points of expertise to function.
Companies and their successes. Organizations have become much more adept in implementing complex structures. However, what has not changed is the key to success in working in a matrix correctly identified in the HBR article, the abilities, behavior, and performance of individual managers. Making the move to matrix a success. The environments faced by organizations consist of four elements: social, cultural, economic, physical, and technological. For an organization, the combination of these elements results in an environment that has four basic properties: complexity, which is number of elements; diversity, which is variety of elements; rate of change, which is stable or dynamic; and uncertainty, which means predictability of changes. Together, these properties help determine whether the environment can be considered simple or complex. Simple environments are characterized by a small number of similar, unchanging elements and low uncertainty. Complex environments are characterized by a large number of diverse, dynamic elements and high uncertainty. When an organization's environment is relatively simple, a traditional hierarchical form proves to be sufficient. However, as an organization's environment grows more complex, the traditional structure characterized by inflexibility may become overloaded by having to process the quantity of information necessary to adjust to the changing environment. This failure to adopt should indicate the need to adopt a more organic organizational form, such as the matrix. Another important environmental factor is the influence of a dominant stakeholder. The history of project management indicates that much of the initial impetus for its use was a function of the United States Defense Department's and NASA's requirement to include the use of project management as part of the contract acquisition process. It was believed that this organizational arrangement would best allow the organizations bidding on large, unique, complex government projects to complete them successfully within the expected time and budget constraints. Because so many of these projects were pushing back the frontiers of knowledge into areas where it was difficult, if not impossible, to know with certainty the cost, technology, time to complete, and resources required, for example, to complete a major project like a space shuttle or moon landing. This approach made considerable sense as a coordinating mechanism and a control measure. The leadership team need to work to align itself behind one set of goals and outcomes. Under the old functional structure, the leadership team goals could simply be a collection of unrelated goals of individual team members. In a matrix organization, this collection is no longer possible. The goals of the leadership team will need to be an integrated whole, with all members aligned with each goal. The good news is that the debates among team members to arrive at this integration typically results in better decisions than if there had been no debates. Matrix success requires a productive relationship between project manager and functional managers. Core competencies include skills and infrastructure evolution, functional budgets, outsourcing or resource sharing, mentoring, recruiting and training, technical direction, technical reviews, processes, standards, and tools. Project management include customer engagement, product definition, integrated plan, issues identification and resolution, project direction, cross-functional coordination, risk mitigation, resource planning. So what happens at the intersection? Negotiation of specific staff to fulfill the core team's approved source commitment, identification and commitment to specific deliverables, active ongoing dialogue on technical direction, participation in technical reviews, assistance in applying functional processes, standards, and tools, discussion and resolution of escalated issues, performance assessment of team members, functional resources assigned to project. Since 2001, Agility Consulting have been building research and a body of knowledge around what drives true organizational agility. They came up with a model called Agility Model, which includes anticipating change, generating confidence, initiation action, liberating thinking, evaluating results. This model has been recognized by the American Management Association, Human Resource Planning Society, CIO Magazine, and others, as well as highlighted in 2008 book entitled Human Resource Transformation. Thank you.
Hi, so next up we're going to talk about our thoughts and experiences on the matrix structure. So in my job of road construction, there is a matrix type structure, especially in the design section of the roads. So you can think of it as on the top, there's going to be the hydrologist managers, the materials managers, and the right-of-way and surveyors. And they're going to be the guys that the designers are going to be talking to in order to create the project in CAD. And so the designers are going to be on the left, collaborating with the hydrologist, materials, and everyone to create this product, which is the project. And so each designer is going to have to collaborate with them individually. And so at the top of the designers is going to be their group chief or manager, who's going to be in control and looking at what the designers have come up with. And so after this, after they've finished with their designs, it'll go out to the project engineers, who will be in field managing the project and how it comes out. So in this type of environment, when you're out in the field, this is where it'll be both complex and uncertain with what's happening out there. And because of this complex and uncertain environment, it's more intuitive for a matrix type structure, because it'll cause more collaboration within the groups, especially when problems arise and whatnot. Project engineer can talk to the designer, or talk to the hydrologist or someone in order to fix the issue. So the next experience I'm going to talk about is not personally my own, but of my brother-in-law's. He used to work for a company that designed and manufactured t-shirts. It was a relatively small company, startup, with few departments, but the environment that they were in was simple, but relatively uncertain. Thus, they implemented a matrix structure from the get-go. And so with this structure, they had their design vice president, finance vice president, and manufacturing and marketing at the top, and then their product managers on the left, as you can see. And so from his thoughts, he thought this matrix structure worked really well with them. It allowed for them to collaborate with everyone, especially with the marketing and design vice presidents. By collaborating with them, they were able to figure out which designs were more popular, what was selling a lot more, and how to stay on top of things if problems were to come about. So now, thoughts on the structure. So the past two examples we looked at were of companies who implemented the matrix structure. But why did they implement it? Well, they thought they would have better coordination and collaboration within the company. This is especially true with engineering, where there's specialty departments such as the hydrologist and materials. They have the technical know-how that some of the designers do not have on specific topics. Therefore, the matrix structure helped facilitate collaboration within these departments. As for the t-shirt company, they produce multiple products, or different styles and designs of t-shirts. Therefore, by having one or two designs specified or overseen by one product manager, it was easier for them to organize and coordinate within the other departments. Both companies also saw that this structure would encourage better communication and understanding of the company. The t-shirt company also saw that this structure would help facilitate more ideas and innovation for their t-shirt designs. But overall, the crucial part to this structure that both companies saw was learning. They needed to learn how to talk to the various departments, and they needed to know what department to talk to for which ideas and solutions they had. So my question to you is, have you had any experiences with the matrix structure?
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
By now, you might be considering a matrix structure to solve some of the problems of your company's organization. Well, before you do that, let's talk about strengths and weaknesses of the matrix structure. Think about your company and how it is organized. Are there things that you like about it and things that maybe not so much? Do you prefer a horizontal team-based approach, or are you more comfortable in a vertical chain of command style? The strengths of the matrix are related to the idea that it is a best of both worlds answer to this question. Because it seeks to merge the efficiency of a vertical approach with the flexibility of a horizontal approach, it can make a company extremely competitive if it is done properly. However, many people may identify with one approach over the other, and incorporating elements of both into one organizational structure can cause confusion, ambiguity, frustration, and resistance to change among the rank and file. It can give some people responsibility without any authority. It can give some people authority without any real responsibility. And in general, it can backfire if the people of the organization fail to buy in. In 2005, Dr. Thomas Tsai of Cal State University at Long Beach and Laura D'Annunzia of A.T. Kearney Incorporated conducted a statistical evaluation of survey responses from 294 top and mid-level managers in 7 major U.S. corporations across 6 industries, all of whom were working in or switching to a matrix structure. They compiled this list of strengths and weaknesses. They also identified 5 challenges to implementing and managing a matrix structure that were common to all of these companies. These challenges were misaligned goals, unclear roles and responsibilities, ambiguous authority, lack of a matrix guardian, and silo-focused employees. To make matters worse, while most managers agreed that these 5 challenges were obstacles that they had to overcome, there was a discrepancy of up to 60% between top and mid-level managers regarding the degree to which each of these posed a problem. This speaks to a pretty clear lack of communication between the top and the mid-level managers, which can be a major problem of a matrix structure. So, how do you beat the matrix? Well, as with most things in life, communication is the key. In order to successfully operate with a matrix structure, your company needs to disseminate and reinforce its overarching vision and its strategic intent. It needs to establish clear guidelines for its employees regarding their roles and responsibilities, the chain of command, accountability, communication frequency, and points of contact for information or approval. It helps to appoint a strong leader to be the matrix guardian to evaluate the performance of the matrix and the employees within it, and to coach employees on how to maximize their performance with regard to accomplishing the company's goals and their own goals. In general, you need to clearly communicate expected outcomes, provide plenty of training, and encourage cross-training among all the employees. So let's look at some real-world examples. The guided missile destroyer USS Benfold is a good example of how a matrix structure can work on a micro scale. In 1997, Captain Michael Abrashoff of the U.S. Navy took command of the Benfold and quickly discovered a ship that was performing well below standards and had crew morale at an all-time low. He decided he needed to do something radical to turn things around, and he resolved to manage his sailors differently. However, to avoid getting fired, his approach had to operate within the hierarchical structure of the Navy, which is pretty much the definition of a traditional, vertically organized command and control sort of organization. He may not have known it at the time, and he didn't explicitly name it as such, but his radical idea was basically to organize his ship into a matrix structure. Captain Abrashoff retained the hierarchy structure of the department, including the officers and crew, but he organized their workloads across departments. He cross-trained all of his sailors in all the parts and jobs of the ship, organized them into teams that were a mixture of officers and enlisted personnel, and he designated a sailor responsible for each area, in some cases without regard to rank. Morale improved immediately. The sailors responded to their newfound empowerment to challenge, well, that's the way we've always done it, and innovated the entire process of operating a ship. The ship, with the crew in their second and sometimes third string roles, regularly trounced other ships during military exercises. They set new records for gunnery scores, mission success, and general combat readiness. In order to keep things up on step, Abrashoff became his ship's matrix guardian. The crew nicknamed him Megaphone Mike because he spent the majority of his time either directly communicating the ship's goals and mission or facilitating communication among sailors and departments. Several of Benfold's innovations went on to become standard operating procedures in the fleet at large, and many of the programs implemented by Abrashoff on his ship went on to reshape the way the Navy operates both fleets and individual vessels. For a macro-level example of a matrix structure in action, let's look at MWH Global, now part of Stantec. MWH is an international design-build engineering consulting firm that operates on 6 continents and focuses on what they call wet infrastructure. Federal and municipal utilities, hydropower, dams, mine tailing services such as mine tailing impoundment design, mine tailing treatment, and mine closure, and other water-related projects. They are recognized as the #1 international design firm in sewer waste by Engineering News Record, and they have a well-deserved reputation in the international community for engineering design projects. MWH reorganized to a matrix structure in 2011 that looks something like this. As you can see, employees are organized primarily by the industries that they serve: global energy, global mining, global oil and gas, and global manufacturing. Application of technical expertise is MWH's primary product. They feel that this arrangement kept their talent current on latest design trends and innovative practices. However, second to industry served, employees are also organized horizontally across industries by region and geography. MWH did this so that their employees would be strategically located for project delivery and that they would be aligned with local practices and standards. This particular form of the matrix structure has been incredibly successful for MWH, as illustrated by their international reputation and the size and scope of their successfully delivered flagship projects, such as the Panama Canal third set of locks, the San Vicente Dam raise, and the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Program. MWH also benefits from the quality of their people. Their culture is centered around technical excellence, but they also have a spirit of collaboration and teamwork that made the transition to the matrix structure extremely smooth and made the matrix structure itself ideally suited to what they want to do. Again, it all comes down to communication, communication, communication. MWH Global was acquired by Stantec in 2016 and is currently being integrated into Stantec's own matrix structure. However, while MWH is organized primarily by industry served, Stantec is organized primarily by geography, with industry served playing a secondary role. Stantec is a similarly sized engineering consulting firm operating around the world that services the same industries with a related but slightly different focus: transportation, mining solutions, oil and gas, power and energy, and other civil construction projects. The acquisition is intended to create synergies and allow each company to sell additional types of products and services to their existing clients, and also to acquire new ones. MWH is currently working through problems related to retraining employees on new guidelines for authority, responsibility, and accountability, and switching the chain of command from primarily industry served to region. The two companies are still feeling each other out, and the resultant matrix structure could end up not resembling either MWH's current structure or Stantec's current structure. However, both companies are encouraged by their similar cultures, their commitment to success, and the quality of their communication. In general, if the people of your organization buy in and commit to the structure, and they are coached in both how they can use it to achieve the company's goals and how they can succeed individually within it, you might have a pretty good chance of being successful with a matrix structure. So, what was the original question? Do you think a matrix structure is right for you? Well, what kind of people do you work with? Do you think that a matrix structure might work for your company's business? Do you think that you and your coworkers would buy into it? At the end of the day, these are questions that only you and the people in your organization can answer. And they should make the decision to adopt a matrix structure only after focusing on how to best align with their goals, their strengths, their weaknesses, and most importantly, their people.
Improving the matrix. The matrix structure often is the answer when organizations find that the functional, divisional, and geographic structures combined with horizontal linkage mechanisms will not work. Five areas needing improvement within the matrix are misalignment of goals, unclear roles and responsibilities, ambiguous authority, lack of a matrix guardian, and silo-focused employees. Misaligned goals. Three issues are lack of coordination and synchronization, poor timing of work plans, inadequate process of aligning goals. Some solutions are constant communication between management on all levels combined with consistent visions. Implementing a timeline before a project begins with clear suspense dates and completion dates is key as well. 67% of top-level managers cite misaligned goals as a common dilemma. Unclear roles and responsibilities. Issues are job duties and guidelines are unclear, uncertain roles and responsibilities, confusion as to whom is the boss, not knowing who to contact when a situation occurs. To combat the confusion as to who is the boss, upper-level managers must institute initial training when a new employee is hired. New companies don't have these problems because structural guidelines are set when the organization is established. Throughout many articles of discussion, lower and mid-level managers have unclear roles in their company with the matrix structure. This is because of lack of communication among the ranks. Confusion over roles and responsibilities is a problem in almost all matrix organizations. Ambiguous authority. Some issues are confusion over who has final authority, lack of clarity, leaders do not share decision rights, and unnecessary delay in the decision-making process. Solutions are whomever has access to the most information with the highest degree of detail should be the one making the decision. All of the 5 topics have a commonality in which upper level management must set clear standards and communicate, I'll say it again, communicate to associates beyond one person towards each horizontal or vertical direction. Lack of a matrix guardian. Issues are non-existent matrix performance rewards and monitoring processes. The matrix guardian does not have senior level support or authority to take action, and employees lack to divulge information on problems within the matrix structure. Solutions are nearly all top-level managers cite the importance of a matrix guardian. A matrix guardian needs to be someone who's been working there for a while and has knowledge of most all of the departments. The guardian needs to have consistent communication between the CEO or another top-level manager and needs the ability to take action when necessary. Silo-focused employees. Issues are personal conflicts between leaders, withholding information from others, lack of trust between employees, insufficient communication. Solutions are allow employees to disperse to different departments within the organization to develop interpersonal skills. Working in a different unit separates tension and allegiance toward a group. Provide adequate training, enhance the work environment to other functional and divisional areas. Employee behavior is perhaps the most critical challenge that matrix organizations face. The military has good benefits in terms of advancement and change throughout promotions. Every 4 years, and depending on the rank, the DoD moves families to combat complacency and enhance advancement opportunities. Many additional duties are always available as well. Once reaching a higher rank, additional duties are inevitable. Adapting and overcoming. As business change and grow to new levels, managers see the need to develop or initiate a new foundation. Initial training is critical for an overall grasp. The matrix structure allows for fresh communication channels between channels both vertically and horizontally among the ranks. Build an organization within the company that has clarity, continuity, and consistency. Allow each individual to understand the goals and objectives. Allow employees the ability to move within the functional, cross-training, and promoting. Finally, a successful matrix structure can take months or years to perfect. The challenge is not so much to build a matrix structure as it is to create a matrix in the minds of our managers. The critical strategic requirement is not to devise the most ingenious and well-coordinated plan, but to build the most viable and flexible strategic process. The key organizational task is not to design the most elegant structure, but to capture individual capabilities and motivate the entire organization to respond cooperatively to a complicated and dynamic environment.